Lockdown protest planner arrested. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee and let's have a look at this article sent to me by a viewer from The Age. Because, well, the language in it, I think, conveys a lot more meaning than just the article itself, the terms that are used. Now, before we go through this, because it is a discussion about a lockdown protest planner who was arrested and faces a $20,000 fine. Before we go through this, I want to draw two things to your attention. This is a video I did. Disease Mitigation Measures by D.A. Henderson. Now, D.A. Henderson, he's a well-known epidemiologist and is credited with helping eradicate smallpox from the planet. Now, this article, in this video that I go through, and I'll link to it, goes through every single intervention measure. It came out at the time when influenza was going around the world a few years ago, and we had SARS and other issues. And they are quite critical of all of these lockdowns, these restrictions, saying that their effectiveness isn't proven, and it's not worth the damage that it will cause to other parts of the economy, among other things. And I recommend that you read it, or if not, listen to my video on it. Then the second video is Inflammation and Severe COVID Vulnerability. This is an article that was published on, we'll let the ad play, that was published on The Conversation, and it discusses just the role of inflammation and in some ways blood glucose levels on your vulnerability to this illness, because there's quite the spectrum in people's susceptibility to it. And this is something that you can all address yourself at home to reduce your vulnerability. This isn't woo-woo, this isn't BS, this isn't a miracle solution, but it's a way, just even in general, it can just improve your levels of health. When you go down that entire path, that can change your life actually in a lot of ways. I'd recommend you check out, if you're interested, check out Low Carb Down Under. Have a look at some of their lectures, some of the doctors there and how they've helped people turn their lives around. It's quite inspiring. But so these are two just positions I take, two bits of evidence. I'm quite concerned with the economic impact of the lockdown. There's no discussion at all about comorbidity factors and how people can adjust their lifestyles to reduce those. And everyone can, or majority of people can. I'd much rather see public messaging about modifying your behaviors to reduce the threat that this illness has upon us. But no, that's not what we get. We don't get that from the media. We get, Magda Malinsky or whatever, Volinsky, that fat bloody goalkeeper in netball, ragging on Peter Evans, who, sure, he's a bit of a character, but his point is right. Who is your role model? Who should be your role model? So let's have a look at this. And just pay attention to the language used in the article. So, utterly selfish. Lockdown protest planner arrested and faces a $20,000 penalty. So it's utterly selfish to want your freedom, or to advocate for less border restrictions, or to be concerned that businesses are getting destroyed left, right, and center, that unemployment is skyrocketing, that people are getting desperate. There's another article where a woman, she lost her children. Couldn't get to the hospital here in Queensland, apparently. I think it's a case of terrible optics with what's happened. But if we didn't have these borders, we didn't have premiers saying hospitals are only for Queenslanders or only for our people, the optics wouldn't exist, would they? Assistant Commissioner Luke Cornelius says police will not tolerate batshit crazy anti-coronavirus theories and warn people planning on attending protests that their feet won't touch the ground before they are arrested. So there you go. And look at good old Commissioner Luke. I can tell just by looking at him, he has a higher level of comorbidity. Look at his BMI, guys. He's obviously obese. He's obviously on the high spectrum. I'd put a good money that he could potentially be pre-diabetic and not even realize it. We just have to look. We just have to look. There's scientific evidence relating to how that is a comorbidity factor and highlights your risk. Is that ever discussed? No, Florian, you're victim blaming. People can't take responsibility for their own lives. That seems to be the trend, doesn't it? Mr. Cornelius dismissed protests on Friday as the tinfoil hat-wearing brigade after a Melbourne man was arrested and charged with incitement for allegedly helping to organise an anti-lockdown protest planned for next week. Notice how they frame it. If you're even against these lockdowns and want to try and advocate for your own freedom and liberty, you're a tinfoil hat wearer. Now, we looked at a video yesterday. We did a live stream discussing the results from a Roy Morgan poll, where most Victorians supported the stage 4 lockdowns, and I'll bring it up here. You can see, I might do a video just looking at it, but the statistics show most people did support it in Victoria. And people will go, nah, it's not true, you can't believe it, you can't believe it. No one I know in the chat supports it. And so I did a quick online chat, live chat, asking how many people watch TV. Very few actually did. This is the problem, everyone. When we're consuming media online or on YouTube, when you're selecting out a variety of different sources to listen to people discuss things that you agree with, you may think everyone thinks like that. This is what I encountered. I first encountered this when I first went to university, and this is going to show my naivete. I was sitting up there in the staff room. I was doing some tutoring and looking, and I saw waiting to see a lecture, and I saw all these magazines, all these left-leaning magazines, and I thought, wait a minute, it's completely self-evident that a free market economy with the invisible hand steering the economy is the most efficient and equal way. All these interventions just cause problems. Just showing you how naive Florian was, perhaps. I think it's worse in architecture than other degrees. The protest, scheduled to take place in Melbourne CBD on September 5, attracted interest from thousands online, but the Northwest Metro Region Assistant Commissioner said police had been monitoring the activity on social media and arrested a man on Friday. Why didn't they do that for the BLM protests? Why didn't they do that there? I would say it's numbers. They probably couldn't. There were too many of them. Why didn't they monitor the activity of all of the crazy vegans that shut down the city for hours, or glued themselves and were actually risking their lives onto roads? Why didn't they do that? Weren't they? They could have. The numbers were there. The 76-year-old man from Windsor was charged with inciting others to breach the chief health officer's directions by attending the protests. He was bailed and will appear before the court next February. And here's the thing. Here's the thing. You've got two groups. You've got people who would go and protest for the BLM. And you've got people who are protesting against this, against their restrictions on their freedom. Judging by the figures from the Roy Morgan poll, the young people are more in support of this, the restrictions, where the oldies aren't. I mean, look at the guy, he's 76 years old. He'd be in a high-risk demographic. Now, what is one thing that changes generally over time as you get older? You accumulate more responsibility. You accumulate more people that are dependent on you. You accumulate more asset and possessions. You've got more to lose. So this is why, we see the protests. The numbers aren't going to be the same. His house was raided, and 2 laptops, a computer, and 2 mobile phones were seized. Mr. Cornelius said those thinking of protesting were utterly selfish. Was he saying this months ago when 10,000 people marched through the street of Melbourne? I don't recall him speaking out against that. Please let me know if he did, because that'd be nice. If he was consistent, that'd be good. That would be good. My respect for him would go up. We'll be taking further action over the course of the next week in the lead up to the protest, as we're identifying other organisers and we'll be taking action against them, he said. We'll be taking action against anyone who turns up on the day to participate. So they're just coming down with an iron fist. They're coming down with an iron fist. So we're not America here, everyone. You don't have a right to congregate, to assemble. We don't have a right here. We're not America. Remember that. Australians never rebelled. We didn't fight for our freedom. We're not a nation like that. Mr. Cornelius said, inciting someone to breach the chief health officer's direction attracts the same penalties as someone who actually breaches the directions. In this case, because we will be putting this matter before the court, that individual will be facing penalties of up to $20,000, so it's a very serious offence, he said. He said that conspiracy theories are using the current stage 4 lockdown restrictions to spread other ridiculous notions. Well, how about the fact that this is having a tremendous impact on our economy? It is destroying businesses. It is destroying jobs. That is not a ridiculous notion. Suicides are up through all anecdotal evidence. That is not a ridiculous notion. The actual mortality of this illness is so low, does it warrant the economic damage that we're doing? That is not a ridiculous notion. Has economic modeling been done to test the impact of these restrictions? That is not a ridiculous notion. But see, this is the danger. This is their danger. They lump everything in together. So any legitimate criticism of what Florian says, or the dictates of the CHO, are easily dismissed. The tinfoil hat wearing brigade are alive and well out there in our community, and they are taking every opportunity to leverage the current situation to serve their own ridiculous notion about so-called sovereign citizens, constitutional issues, how 5G is going to kill your grandkids, he said. I mean, yeah, there is some rubbish out there. Sovereign citizens, I mean, guys, that's not a thing. Okay, I don't pretend it is. 5G, you can stop it with water. The reason why it hasn't been done in years past is because it's crap compared to 4G with regards to the range that you're going to get. Okay, you can test it yourself. Thunderfoot is doing a video on it. You can test it and see just how easy it is to absorb the radiation there. So it won't get through you. It's just crazy. It's batshit crazy nonsense. People need to wake up to themselves because the wider community is awake to you and you need to stop it. Mr. Cornelius said organizing and participating in the protest would be a serious and blatant breach of the coronavirus restrictions, and anyone attending the protests in the CBD would be arrested. Your feet won't touch the ground, he said. The very hard work of the vast majority who have been complying by and large with these restrictions will be undone by a small and selfish minority of foolish people who willfully further exposed us to the deadly virus. Is it really that deadly? I guess if you're in a home and over 70, yes, it is, but so is gastro if you're in that situation. Look at how this is being framed. Look at how this is being framed. And you're going to have a lot of normal people who are frustrated, who are angry, who might have actually participated. This will scare them away. This will stop them. They've got too much to lose. Could you afford to get arrested? No one has the human right to infect other people and place the entire Victorian community at risk. We don't have the human right to assemble. He also urged anyone planning on attending daily anti-lockdown protests in Dandenong to think again. Those who have taken part in recent days have claimed that they aren't gathering to protest, but are coincidentally all out at the same time for their 1 hour of exercise. Please don't try and dress your behavior up as excuses, he said. Well, yeah, they'll just crush you. You need the numbers, everyone. You need the numbers. Will you get the numbers? There's the question. I suspect the Roy Morgan poll is right. I think most Victorians want the restrictions and want the lockdowns. We all know it's not, so stop playing us in the wider community for fools. Don't try and dress up. What the real reason is for leaving home is to wander down the street with a bunch of other buffheads to protest. There you go. I mean, look at that. You can't even protest. How dare you protest? How dare you challenge what the state has put on you? Don't complain about that foot on your neck. Just for one moment, stop and think about yourselves and spare a thought for the loved ones of the nearly 500 Victorians who have died so far. Oh, come on. We all got to die, one way or another. Seriously. Do you think those 500 Victorians, those elderly people that died, do you think they would be happy with what's going on here in the state? Reflect on what you need to do to stop more deaths, more grief, and more harm. People need to build some resilience, okay? If you're over 80 and in a home, chances are you will die soon. That is life, regardless of this. Seriously. This is the concern. We don't really have a positive idea of death anymore. It's not even discussed. It's not even portrayed at all in our society. We've become too secular. People are afraid. They don't talk about it. 2 men were charged and 17 people were fined at the protest in Dandenong on Thursday night. Local leaders have voiced concerns over the repeated protests at the George Andrews Reserve this week. There we have it, guys. What do you all think? How do you think it's framed? I have legitimate concerns with the economic, social, and health impacts of this lockdown. I think the end doesn't justify the means. I've got evidence to back up my position. There's very little economic modelling that has been done about it. Government's refusing to provide it. The opposition seems to be rather impotent in their response. What mechanisms do we have? Here in Queensland at the ballot box, who can I vote for? And if you want to go and make a public display of your disgust at these interventions, you can get arrested. If you even try and organise it, you can get arrested. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below, everyone. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and want to support the content I create, there are a few ways you can. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us using our affiliate links to Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or Kucoin. You can buy our merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Take care. Have a great day. I'll see you all next time.